Read the disclaimer. Doofus. And please contact us through this email address with questions or fan art. Thank you for your support.
Say this a lot, but there's something weird to me about this show.
That's the understatement of the decade.
And that is that I haven't really covered any figures from Universe yet. I have come close though. There was Universe Skywarp that I nearly covered. I also nearly did an ADHD Awareness Month special, which included Acid Storm, but I'm not sure why it's avoided this review series for so long. Maybe it was just waiting for a special figure to come along and inspire me to make a review. A figure that is one of my quote-unquote mold Grails. Salutations, denizens of the internet. I'm Firebite27, and it's time to talk about one of these mold Grails. Universe 2008 Ratbat. Sans his pack buddy Springer.
So before we get onto the review proper, I ought to explain what I consider a mold grail, because the term is a bit confusing if you don't know what I'm talking about. A mold grail is basically any one particular figure mold that I consider to be a grail. I don't generally care what version of the mold it is, so long as I get it. Heck, even minicons are included in this mold grails list because I want to get every single available minicon mold someday. And when it came to the Galaxy Force Noisemaze / Cybertron Sideways mold, I had a lot of trouble finding it for a good price because, well... Oh my god! Then I found out there was a BotCon version and, well, I'm not sure why I got my hopes up. Then I found out about this cool golden white version, and I thought, surely this would be less expensive because it was the mass-produced version. Ironic naming aside, my options were running low, so I went with the pink version that was part of a 2-pack. Now then, it needs to be said right off the bat that this alternate mode feels very reminiscent of some of the Decepticons from the 1986 movie. And it's certainly a slice of my kind of crazy, feeling like a midpoint between Cyclonus and Scourge. And maybe a bit of Cylon Raider from Battlestar Galactica thrown into the mix for spice. Wait, Brunt, is that you? And I honestly don't think I'm making a bad comparison here. You've got Cyclonus' swept forward wings and a body that's very similar to G1 Scourge's spaceboat mode. This mold was used as Scourge in the sweeps, but mostly it's just a super cool alien spaceship that is designed this way solely for the sake of being cool. Though I can't exactly feign surprise here, since the Unicron trilogy was really fond of its spacey, nonsensical alternate modes. We had crazy bots like Scorponok, Vector Prime, Menasor, and so many others. Oh god, it was just so cool, and I wish we could return to designing characters like this with super cool, nonsensical, and just far out alternate modes. And I'm not sure if I'm crazy, but I feel as though this figure has made me come to the realization that maybe since the end of the Unicron trilogy, we haven't designed any good new takes on Cybertronian alt modes. Don't get me wrong, we've had plenty of great figures with Cybertronian alt modes come out since the Unicron trilogy, such as Cup, Trigger Happy, Shockwave, Cyclonus, Thundercracker and the Seekers from Siege, and Brainstorm, but here's the difference. We actually got to see their Cybertronian alt modes. There was already a precedent set for what Cybertronian alt modes should look like. But then we put those figures next to Siege and it kinda feels like we've lost our way. Not saying that any of their alt modes were bad, But what I am saying is that 90% of them were failing to push the envelope, instead going for vaguely science fiction-y versions of vehicles that were on Earth and in distinct piles of nothing. But when Cybertronian alternate modes are done like this, it is nigh impossible to find fault with them. Heck, it even rolls on wheels. I'd like to see a modern Cybertronian jet do that, and no, I'm not counting Skylinks. And of course, because this is a Cybertron mold, we have to talk about the gimmick. Just take the included purple Decepticon planet key, shove it into this bit here, and bam, some spikes pop out, and for some reason an extra faction symbol appears. Honestly, I don't know why this needed to be a feature in vehicle mode. I can't see it serving any purpose. Maybe it's like a plane-based version of a spoiler? Do planes even have spoilers? Oh yeah, apparently the second sigil that's revealed when you insert the planet key is actually Ratbat's solo faction from the Dreamwave comics. I honestly would not have known that this was a reference to the Dreamwave comics if I hadn't looked on the wiki or anything. And I doubt you would have too. In this mode, the gimmick is just honestly a bit weird, though it does give me an excuse to include an impromptu articulation segment.
In jet mode, Ratbat possesses 2 hinges at the crossbow. Why did you have me narrate this?
Because you actually need to do something in order to earn your paycheck.
Paycheck? You mean all of the IOUs I've been getting?
You're basically a figment of my imagination, so be glad that I'm giving you anything at all. Besides, we can just renegotiate your contract later. In the meantime, let's do the size comparison. Here's Universe Ratbat next to my last review, Kingdom Core Class Optimus Prime, the last purple space vehicle I reviewed on this channel, Kingdom Cyclonus, the last Transformer I reviewed on this channel with a flying alt mode in general, Hunt for the Decepticons Tomahawk, the last mold from the Cybertron line that I reviewed on this channel, Primus Unleashed Scrap Metal, next week's review, SS86 Cup, and of course, a standard Q-Tama, a standard can of sparkling water, and a fraud side. So overall, this vehicle mode has had a fairly profound effect on me, mostly through reminding me of why I got into science fiction and even Transformers in the first place. Mostly because our current interpretation of what futuristic vehicles should look like feels very samey, and I have a trouble distinguishing between the various types of science fiction settings based on their vehicles because they all look so similar. I feel as though it's especially true of modern Star Wars vehicles, which, let's be real, isn't exactly something you want to say about a franchise that basically pioneered inventive spaceship designs for science fiction movies. But this mold feels incredibly refreshing and incredibly inventive, and I think it's about time that we got into that transformation.
Who has the coolest gadgets? Who has the tricked out ride?
Much like his vehicle mode, Ratbat's robot mode feels like a fusion of 2 pre-existing Transformers characters. Those obviously being G1 Cyclonus and, of course, Earthrise Ironworks. What, did you think I was gonna seriously say Scourge and the Sweeps? There's absolutely nothing about this robot mode that feels reminiscent of those designs. Well, except for maybe the slight hint of a collar and maybe the shins. I mean, the head looks like it's taking more notes from G1 Cyclonus' Yifkon Samurai helmet than it is from Scourge's weird whatever that is on top of his noggin. Literally the only way to make him even remotely Scourge-like is to take parts off of his legs and put them onto his backpack. Though at that point it just ends up feeling like Batman.
I am the moon, beach.
I am justice. I am the night. And I am the hero that this goddamn city deserves. I am Ratbat.
For f***'s sake, Itachi, go home. You are drunk.
Who the fuck is Itachi?
Who the f*** are you? You are not Itachi.
And honestly, while I was looking this mold over for this review, my brain started comparing this figure to RID 2001, or I guess Aligned Continuity Soundwave. I sincerely doubt there's any connection between the two since this mold was originally sideways, and in all honesty, a part of me can totally see Prime Soundwave being switched out for sideways and no one batting an eye. Or maybe glowing Power Rangers helmet visor? I don't know. Now then on to a more controversial issue, parts forming. He comes with a pair of massive claymores that are formed from the wings, and honestly, I really like it. It's like you have an entire batleth on each arm. Heck, if you're part of the original generation of nerds that grew up on Star Trek, then first of all, props to you. Second of all, you can actually give him an entire Klingon batleth with both of the swords. It's really cool how versatile they are. You could also turn him into a claw, or you could also pair it with the Cyber Key gimmick in order to give him this really weird, massive, stupid bow and arrow weapon. And honestly, when a politician packs this much heat, the only piece of advice worth listening to is... Don't f*** with this, Senator! Unfortunately, my copy of the mold has a very unfortunate QC issue where part of the underside of the torso was melted on the arm that holds the massive shield, spear, whatever weapon. But considering that's the one and only issue that I truly take with the robot mode, it's forgivable. Besides, for all I freaking know, that's how the figure was designed. Also, while I forgot to film it, he has some astounding light piping, thanks to most of his face being clear plastic. This figure feels dynamic and alive, even with the somewhat lacking articulation of the period. Speaking of, Maya, would you please?
In robot mode, Ratbat has a rotation at the head, rotation and spread at the shoulders, elbow bend, wrist swivels, shield rotation, and hinges, ball joints at the hips, rotation at the thighs, knee bend, and toes and ankles move.
Honestly, this design is just straight up terrifying, in the best way possible. It's just a great design, and that's really all I can say about it. If you want to know how to design an awesome Transformer, look no further than the Cybertron toy line. But for size comparisons, look no further than the upcoming segment. Here's Universe 2008 Ratbat, Next Kingdom Optimus Prime, Cyclonus, Tomahawk, Cup, a standard Qtama, standard can of sparkling water, and Fraudside.
So overall, the Cybertron Noisemaze / Sideways / Universe 2008 Ratbat mold is really good. In fact, I'd say it's one of the few Cybertron molds that holds up today. Sure, it's not perfect, like I really would prefer that this shield accessory thingy be detachable altogether and the shoulder does flop down a bit because of this weird QC melting issue, but overall, yeah, it's a solid 8.5 out of 10 for me. Please remember to like this video, share it with your friends, and subscribe to the channel and ring the notification bell. That being said, this is Firebat27, over and out.